and welcome back to the Brandon and Daryl experience. I'm Daryl.
And I'm Brandon.
And today, we're doing something a little different from last time. Last time we talked about Zillennials and kind of where we stood in like the different generations. But today, we're going back to movies because why not?
Because we based our whole podcast off it.
True.
A big portion, I should say.
It kind of is what like inspired like the start of it. Yeah. So today we're talking about not just one movie, but a bunch of movies, and movies that we love to hate or hate to love or whatever. So this is like a lot of like good bad movies that generally speaking are not necessarily considered critically acclaimed, but have definitely been reclaimed by the culture and have been deemed as just so bad that it is so fun to watch. And so I guess I'll let Brandon kick it off. So Brandon, what are some of those things that kind of jump out at you the most? Like when we talk about movies that we love to hate, essentially.
Well, for me, I feel like those movies, they're definitely not your Oscar nominees. They're not your Oscar winners. So what does that entail? Basically, your plot. Is it the run-of-the-mill? Yes. Does it have this, like, other checklist of things that make it very, like, generic, but also easily digestible? Yes. And I feel like that's just what makes the movie, one, captivating, but two, engaging enough that everyone watches them, and like you can just turn off your brain, you can just enjoy it, you can sit down on your couch, eat some popcorn, you don't have to be in the movie theater, you'll have the same experience regardless. It's not like everyone's like, oh my god, I can't believe Sing 2 is coming out of the theater, so I'm gonna go. No. But you know what I mean, it's essentially it's just one of those good bad movies to watch. And like, as in, I'll give you some examples so that we can start going off places. Yeah. One I love, near and dear to my heart since I was a kid, Cat in the Hat. I know, Daryl, you're not the biggest fan.
Well,
but
my feelings...
I'll let you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, no, my feelings about that movie are so complicated, but I'll let you get into like describing it and describing your feelings about it first.
I think there's a running theme with like these movies. I don't know if it's definitely overacting. Overacting is one thing. Mm-hmm. Dialogue is another thing. So like you hear the dialogue and the way they present it. Maybe it's just like a product of the time kind of thing, where it's like, you know, some of these movies most of them I should say are from either like the 90s, early 2000s, and like some of the humor, it sticks today still, but not for the reasons like it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. Like it's more so like, oh, I can't believe they said that wouldn't like be good nowadays. But then you think about it when you watched it as a kid or whenever you watched it, and you're like, oh yeah, you start reflecting on things and whatnot. But that's not the reason why they're good bad movies. It's more so like it's that dialogue and whatnot. But also like the plot, I feel like the plot always goes such a misdirect from what you were expecting, or mm-hmm. like even if it was very straightforward, it was just like, like I said before, you turn off your brain and you're just laughing, or you're just, whether it's because it was supposed to be that way, maybe it's ironically funny, maybe it's like there's just something about these movies that are just like either intentional or unintentional that make it very amusing to watch.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. I think that, so Cat in the Hat, oh my god, it's so complicated. So,
oh wait.
What?
I will clarify. Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers, the live action Cat in the Hat.
Oh yes, yeah, of course, yeah, yep. Yeah, no, the movie, starring Mike Myers. If you don't know, let's see how we describe the plot. Essentially, it is based on the classic Dr. Seuss book. So it's basically, the general plot is that there are these two kids whose names I don't remember. They're played by Spencer Breslin and Dakota Fanning. And essentially Spencer Breslin is fucking hated by his mother. His mom fucking hates him. It is insane how much she hates him.
His name's Connor.
Like his
mother...
Conrad. Oh, Conrad? Okay. So Conrad is hated so much, and their mom is dating this new guy played by Alec Baldwin for some reason, and Alec Baldwin is like fat. That's like a plot point, I don't know. And so as the movie progresses, one day the two kids are left home alone while the mom is at work, and essentially the Cat in the Hat just shows up. Scares the shit out of them, which makes sense because honestly, if you look at Mike Myers in this movie, he's fucking terrifying. And the movie is just them getting into a bunch of wild antics. A big, like, the ticking clock in the movie has to do with this whole, like, there's gonna be a big party, and the mom's boss is, like, a clean freak, and, like, is germophobic and all this other stuff. And so she needs to make sure her house is immaculate, but the cat is fucking everything up. And it's just a bunch of wacky hijinks for, like, hour and a half to 2 hours. Oh my god. So, like, as a kid, of course this movie, like, was, like, a major part of my childhood in the sense that, like, I watched it as a kid, and it's, like, very colorful, it's wild, it's wacky, it's very energetic, and so, like, for a child, it makes perfect sense as to why, like, a child would enjoy it. When you watch it now, it's
very adult.
It's a fever dream. Well, first off, yes, it's adult. It's very adult. There's shit in this movie that kids should not be watching. It's so strange.
He's straight up during one scene. He picks a hoe and he's like, "Oh baby, I love you," and they're like, "Cat," because they have to get back to, like, you know, catching their dog that they Nevin or whatever.
Oh yeah,
and then he throws the hoe on the ground. He goes like, "Dirty hoe."
It's like stuff like that. There's a scene where he cuts his tail off. Like, he literally cuts his tail off and then screams, and the movie, like, bleeps it out. But he's, like, basically screaming, like, son of a bitch, and then they, like, bleep it out, and then it cuts to, like, oh, this, we'll be back to your regularly scheduled program. Like the static or whatever that used to happen in, like, 1950s movies. It's just such a strange film. And, like, one thing I will give it is that, like, from a production standpoint, like, it's really well shot. It's, like, the production design is really on point. It feels like the world of Dr. Seuss, but it's just full of a bunch of shit that just doesn't make any sense. Like, there's also, like, a random advertisement for Universal Studios. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I do.
Like,
because they were on they were writing their babysitter because their babysitter was, like, asleep the whole time. And so she's just sleeping the whole time throughout all these hijinks, and she was hung up in the closet for most of the movie. And then, like, during this one, like, the very end, if you haven't seen the movie, I mean, shame on you. I'm going to spoil it anyways. The house basically turns into a Dr. Seuss book, and then they ride down the babysitter as if it was like a water. What are the thing? The water shoots. The water log like rides.
Oh god, what is it called? Yeah, like the water ride.
Splash Mountain.
Like, you're
Splash
on, like,
Mountain. Whatever.
Yeah. Like, they have one at every amusement park.
And then he just looks at the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and he's just like, "At Universal Studios, ka-ching!" And then, like, takes a picture.
Yeah, it's so strange. And, like, he holds up 2 tickets for it, and it's just like, what? And then by the end of the movie, I guess what was the lesson? Family is important, which is going to be a running theme for a lot of the movies we bring up here. It's like the ultimate end goal is, like, family is important, but, like, it never, like, makes any sense. It's so weird because like,
I was like looking through the list of movies that I wrote down. I was like, oh my god, it is.
Yeah, it's so strange. It's like, what is going on? Oh my god. And it's not that can't be done well, but, like, Cat in the Hat is just, it's so bad, but it's really funny to watch. Like, it's not, well, no, honestly, it does border on unwatchable sometimes, but, like, it's not, like, the most egregious thing I've ever seen, I will say. Yeah.
So that was my like lead into what a bad or a good bad movie is. What, Daryl, give me one of your good bad movies.
Okay, so I guess I'll start towards the bottom. We kind of have, like, a list of our own favorites. And so I'll start with, like, the most recent example for me. And I don't think Brandon, you ever got a chance to watch this movie, but it's Black Christmas 2019. Okay, so this movie is interesting. So if you don't know, this is a remake of a remake, essentially. There was an original Black Christmas back in the 70s. They remade it in 2005, I want to say. And then they remade it again in 2019. And essentially, the basic story is that it's about a group of college girls in a sorority during Christmas. And there's, like, a serial killer running around, like, killing them. And, like, the whole movie, it's kind of like any other, like, slasher horror film. I have not seen the original, but I've seen the remake, and the remake is pretty batshit. But this version, takes a lot of liberties with the story. And, like, I will start off. This movie decides to try and take a more, like, social horror, like, spin on the story, where
Like
it
Get
tries,
Out?
like a Get Out, or, like, I guess Get Out's the best example. Yeah, so, like, Get Out, like Us, where the story is specifically about, like, rape culture in college campuses. And that's not a bad thing, right? To make it to have in a movie. But the way that they decide to tell the story is hilariously bad. And it's really hard to describe unless you watch it, because describing it just sounds, it's a lot. So,
Like, is it like the Bo Burnham? It's not a Bo Burnham movie, but I can't remember her name. Where she's like avenging all the like rapists and whatnot.
no, it's not like Promising Young Woman. So, like, Promising Young
Okay.
Woman is more directly about rape culture. This movie decides to take the horror slasher elements and make it about that.
Okay.
And it's kind of hard to, like, so, like, if the basic, like, things that happen in this movie is that, and I'll read the synopsis that I pulled from Google. It takes place at a fictional college called Hawthorne College, and the synopsis says, Hawthorne College is quieting down for the holidays as students travel home to spend time with their families, but as Riley and her sorority sisters prepare to deck the halls with seasonal parties, a mysterious cloaked figure starts to leave a bloody trail throughout the campus. Refusing to become hapless victims, Riley and her friends decide to band together and fight back against a psychotic Christmas killer. Now, what this synopsis doesn't tell you is that what's actually going on is it's not just a killer, it's multiple killers, and those multiple killers are all men from from a fraternity. And more specifically, these women, it's all of the women on this college campus. All of the sorority sisters across the entire fucking campus are being killed off by a series of fraternities that are all, the major catalyst of the story, and I'll try my best to describe it, is that there is a bust. It's a bust of the original founder of Hawthorne College. This bust used to be a part of, like, the college, like it used to be, like, on display at the college, but they removed it because the original founder of the college, whatever the fuck his name is, Hawthorne something, he was originally, like, a slave owner and a super misogynist and whatever. So they remove it. Come to find out, the bust has a magical, mystical black goo in it that the men of the fraternities decide to use to give themselves super strength to kill all of the women on this college campus. Because women have forgotten their place, as the movie puts it. And the only way to survive is if you submit to the men on this college campus.
Oh, jeez.
Now, again, I don't have a problem with social horror. I don't have a problem with this specific premise. What this movie's trying to say, I agree with. I think most people agree with, or at least I would hope. But the way it goes about it is batshit insane. I kid you not, there's a scene where I literally rolled my eyes so hard. And I watched it with another one of my friends from one of my old jobs. And he also had the same reaction I did, where literally a character, the main character Riley, she is like surrounded by all the fraternity men who are part of this fucking cult or whatever. That's being that's being like ran by one of the college professors, might I add. And this dude says, either you submit to us or we kill you. Go ahead. Your body, your choice.
Oh,
I lost my mind.
God.
I was like, what the fuck is this movie? What is going on? And at first it starts off and it's not terrible. Like what's going on in the story isn't like the worst, but it does take a while to get into the horror in the first place. A lot of the movie is just like people doing shit that really doesn't matter. And like the killer only kills off maybe like 3 people before all of these women decide to like retaliate, which is fine. But like as the movie goes along, it just gets wilder and wilder. And by the end of the movie, I was like, I don't know what the fuck I just watched. And I was dying of laughter while I was watching it, which I'm assuming was not the response I was supposed to be giving this movie. So that's why I added it. It's probably the most recent example I could think of, but it's pretty insane.
It makes me think of the one we just recently watched with Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, I should have added that. Oh, fuck. Okay,
well, that's
that
why
movie.
We're talking about it
oh,
right
my God.
now.
That movie. Oh. Oh, that movie's so goddamn funny. So,
But it's so like because like I think the funniest thing though is because you were telling me this movie was trying to take itself seriously, which throughout the whole thing I kept thinking, how, how?
it's just like it's so wild. So the movie that we're talking about is I Know Who Killed Me, starring Lindsay Lohan from 2007. Oh boy, that movie. Oh my god. So like, if you haven't seen this movie, and there's a lot of synopses that we're throwing around for these, just so you get like the context. This movie is really funny because it's ultimately about a woman who goes missing, and then they find her, and she's like, "I'm not this woman that you're talking about." And then shit goes down, and the whole movie's like a mystery where it's like, "Oh no, like, what happened to Aubrey?" Right? Her name was like Aubrey, right? It was like Aubrey and Dakota.
I couldn't. That sounds completely right, but I couldn't tell you.
I think it's
with
like
100% certainty.
Aubrey goes missing, and then Dakota is the one that's found with like a missing leg and missing arm, and then and then literally the characters are like, "Oh my god, we found Aubrey!" But then Aubrey, who we think is Aubrey, is like, "I'm not Aubrey, I'm fucking Dakota. Fuck you!" And she's like a stripper. And then and then as the movie goes along, she's like, "What happened to Aubrey?" And it's like we still don't know if this person's Dakota or Aubrey. And then all of a sudden they start getting into like this whole thing of like them being twins that were separated at birth, and they have some sort of weird thing where like if one twin gets hurt, the other gets hurt, but in a literal sense. Like if you fell and broke your leg, then the twin's gonna break their leg too. It's so funny. It made no sense.
No, it. Oh my god! Just like because
it's so bad.
Because every point you're just like, there's so many things in the writing that made you think possibly like, oh, she's just, I don't want to use the word crazy, but yeah, she's crazy because essentially it's Lindsay Lohan and she happens to be found in the same place that she went missing, or like that was suspected that she goes missing, and then she's just like, I'm not the girl that you're looking for, and she's like a complete 180 from like her personality as like before, and she's like, oh, maybe she just went through such a traumatic experience. Like even the movie explains it. They're usually people who go through traumatic experiences, sometimes they create like alternate personalities in order to like basically rationalize or try to escape from what they went through. And then we're just like, okay, as an audience, you're like, I can get behind that. And like it even makes more sense because Aubrey, like the original girl, you're just like, oh yeah, she's a writer, so maybe like she took on one of the personas she's writing about.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this bitch is actually her twin sister named Dakota that was given up for adoption and or whatever happened. And like, actually no, she wasn't. She was with her original mom the whole time because the original mom was like a
drug addict, or and like it just didn't make any sense. It was really dumb. It's really funny though because like there are scenes in it, like for example there is a lot of the movie really tries to be like edgy, and it really feels like the type of movie where I believe this is 3 years after Mean Girls, right, which is like the last like big I guess you could consider like Herbie Fully Loaded. I think that was like the year after, but it was like the last big like Lindsay Lohan like teen movie. This movie really feels like, oh, it's Lindsay Lohan really trying to break out of the teen persona thing. But it's really funny to me because it's like, and I'll say this up front. I don't think that her performance is like that bad in the movie. I think that like if anything, the movie is so poorly directed that honestly, any bad performances that are in the movie feel like they were deliberate. It's so strange. But like by the end of the movie, like the plot details are just so like, what is going on? Because I think where the movie really gets me is the whole thing with the boyfriend is what really throws me. So Aubrey has a boyfriend. And like it's one of those stupid like teen plots where it's like, oh, but like I like him, but like we haven't slept together, and like I don't know if this is working out. Yeah. And then literally Dakota, who we think is Aubrey but is Dakota, whatever, comes home and the boyfriend shows up and is like, oh, I got you these flowers. And then Dakota starts like asking him questions or whatever, and then literally within like 5 minutes, they just immediately go upstairs and start fucking.
Yeah.
And, like, you're thinking, okay, so, like, all right. But if you really think about it, it's really fucked up because you're realizing that Dakota, who is not Aubrey, deliberately went out of her way to fuck Aubrey's boyfriend. I just think that's really funny, and it throws me through a loop. It throws me through a loop because it's so funny.
But to be fair, literally right out of the gate, ever since the beginning, she's like adamantly saying, "I'm not Aubrey." So really, whose fault is it?
I just think it's so funny. It's just, oh god.
Because everyone's just like, "You're Aubrey," and she's like, "I'm not fucking Aubrey."
Yeah. It's like she is like
since day one.
Constantly, she's like, why do you guys keep calling me Aubrey? Oh, and we didn't even talk about the blue.
The blue. Well,
So
to be honest, if you didn't say anything, I wouldn't have noticed at any point that
Are you serious? Really?
No, there was a color scheme the whole time that you're like, I never would have noticed.
Well, see, I think that what really pointed out to me is that it's not just that, like, so the main color palette in this movie is blue and red, but mainly blue. And I think that, like, I wouldn't have noticed it had it not been for objects that typically aren't blue being blue for no reason. So, like, it'd be like the killer in this movie, which, by the way, the killer turns out to be her piano teacher. Why? We don't know.
Which I called from the beginning.
Yeah, you called it very early on. I caught the movie like midway through, so I had a general idea of like who the killer was, but I was like, I know it's like an older man who was like bald and like, but like there's no one in the movie except for the piano. Are you kidding me? It's the piano teacher.
Because no, but like we haven't gotten far. It's literally within the first 10 minutes I called it. Because this is what happens. Literally, she's like this perfect girl. Aubrey's just doing her thing. Blah, 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 blah. She's at home. Cut away to her playing the piano. And then she looks back at her piano teacher. She's like, I don't want to play anymore. And then he's just like, what? You don't mean that. No,
Aubrey, you have such
something
talent.
special.
You have so much talent.
And then he just gets up and leaves, like, all flustered. And I was just like, immediately, I was like, this guy's a fucking killer. Like, what are you...
Like it's just
like
so
no one's that butthurt.
Yeah,
no one's that butthurt about losing a client like that. Like even it's their decision. Like there's no reason to write a character like
exactly. And then to add insult to injury, like knowing that he's done this before, where like there is another student that like apparently went missing and was found dead, and like it's implied, or not really implied, it's told to us that the other student was actually another one of his piano students that quit. So like he has a thing about having piano students that quit.
Which is just like, okay, but what if they like wanted to join you again? And it's like you're basically mutilating their bodies and like killing them, so now they won't ever give you like their money again. That's like the worst business deal to ever do. Like,
and like,
just,
they never get into like explaining like anything about this dude. They never explain like his pathology. They don't get into like why he's doing this in the first place. All we know is that people quit and then he kills them. Like we don't know anything else about it. It's so strange.
They were too focused on this whole like double life story of Aubrey and Dakota. Like that's like their whole like they're like we gotta focus on this the whole time. But also Aubrey's missing, and it's just like, so wait, what do you want to focus on? It's like there's a missing girl right now that you thought you found, but apparently you never found. Like what do you?
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, the blue that we keep mentioning is that like the whole idea is that like each twin is supposed to represent a different color. So like blue is supposed to represent Aubrey, and then red's supposed to represent Dakota, and like that's most known when like whenever you see Aubrey, she's always wearing some form of blue, and Dakota, when we meet her, she's a stripper and she's like doing her performance in like a red dress type of situation. But the movie is like all fucking blue. Like literally this killer is using blue glass to commit murder. It's so strange. It's so odd. Also, there's a bunch of prostheses everywhere, and they never explain that either. So, oh god, this movie.
Yeah, but just real quick as well, when you said twins and feeling things, it just made me think of the other good bad movie we watched was Malignant. Which if you haven't before, you go watch our episode. It's the first episode of Malignant.
Yes, definitely.
It's not as good as quality because we were still figuring out stuff. But hey, you can always start somewhere. But
yeah,
go look it out.
Definitely check out our episode on Malignant for sure, because that movie is also wild. We don't need to get too much into it.
We won't get into it.
Yeah,
we won't get into it.
That movie is a ride. Actually, watch the movie before you listen though, because knowing as little as possible for that movie makes it so much better. But
oh my god.
But yeah, so like, oh boy, I know who killed me. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to another good bad movie, because this is one that I also want to bring up because it's another one that has to deal with a social issue, I guess you could say. But the movie, the way it goes about it, I think is so funny because now it's created a trend of these types of movies that, oh god, it's so wild. I call it the Christian persecution genre. And that movie is God's Not Dead.
I haven't seen this one either.
You haven't watched this one? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. So, general premise. So, God's Not Dead, it basically is about a college student. I forget his name, but it's a Christian college student who he's going into his freshman year. I'm assuming it's a community college. I don't think anybody lives on campus, so I think it's community. And he goes to his first class, and in his first class, it's like some sort of like ethics course, I think, and like philosophy and ethics. And then basically the professor walks in. And the professor is apparently, like, everyone keeps on talking about how, like, the professor is super mean, like, he's so tough, like, blah, blah, like, oh, watch out for this professor. He comes in, and he's basically, like, getting ready to start the class, but for whatever reason, he starts off the class, he's like, oh, and everyone in the class, for this class, we don't focus on God. God's dead. So everyone write on your piece of paper that God's dead. And it's like, what? And then the student doesn't write on a piece of paper. He rejects it. He decides he doesn't want to write that down because it's against his faith or whatever. And the professor is like, oh, well, you have to prove that God exists and he's not dead.
That's so mean.
It's so weird. And, like, this movie is full of just, like, a bunch of, like, meanwhiles, but that's, like, the main premise, is that the student has to prove that God exists.
I just want to imagine he's just, like, so, like, adamantly trying to prove that God's real, so he's just, like, looking up every night, just praying, just like, please, just give me a sign, just write it down, just, like, make something happen, just, like, strike him down with lightning right now, please, I'll prove it. And then I'll just be like, haha, yesterday I prayed that you'd get struck by lightning. And guess what? You did. Just like, I want something that crazy.
Oh, no, get ready, because we'll get to something like that. So basically, there's, the movie treats it as though he's, like, becoming obsessed with trying to prove that God exists. To the point in which, like, he has a girlfriend, and his girlfriend breaks up with him because she's so frustrated with his obsession with trying to prove that God exists or whatever.
This movie is cutthroat.
Oh, but I didn't even get to the funniest shit in this movie, because honestly, I think the thing about this movie that's really funny to me is that this movie genuinely believes that it's making, like, a point about the way in which faith exists in our culture. It's not, because it's inaccuracies as far as, like, not so much, like, Christianity, because this movie was obviously made by a bunch of, I'll call them radical Christians, because this movie is very, very, like, anti anyone who's not Christian.
Oh.
It's very, very clear that they hate anyone who's not Christian. It's kind of wild, because we're introduced to other characters throughout this film that have their own various issues that all have something to do with their faith. So, for example, we meet a reporter. I don't remember this woman's name, but it's like a redheaded reporter. And, like, the minute we meet her, she runs up to interview the guys from Duck Dynasty, which gives you a sense of what time it was when this movie was made. It came out in 2014. So she runs up to the guys from Duck Dynasty and goes, like, and starts talking about, like, I don't even know. She's, like, an atheist, and she starts talking about religion, and he's like, oh, well, you can believe in whatever you want to believe, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't really understand what this is supposed to be doing, but all right. I guess they're producers. I don't know what's going on. And then later, she goes to a doctor's appointment and finds out she has cancer. Then, this is where this movie threw me. She goes out to dinner with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend is, like, dressed in, like, a full suit and is, like, talking about work or whatever. And then she looks very, like, aloof and cold and, like, very, very upset. And then she just, like, looks up at him and is like, I found out today that I have cancer. And he responds with, do we have to deal with this now? And breaks up with her on the spot and leaves her in the restaurant.
Susan, I was just trying to have a great night with you, go out to dinner, and you have the audacity to ruin such a lovely romantic night. I can't eat we're breaking up.
So,
I can't believe you.
Oh my god!
He's like, what?
It's so messed up, and the whole movie is like her like crying and being depressed, and then by the end of the movie, she finds God. She becomes Christian, and then they don't do this at the end of the movie, but in the next movie, there's 4 of these fucking movies, by the way. By the end of this movie, into the second movie, we find out that after becoming a Christian, her cancer is fucking gone. So you're telling me that if you have that like in a literal way, if you have cancer, pray and it will go away.
So
what?
Question.
Like, huh?
In the third movie, does she get it again? Because I don't know how they make another 2 sequels.
So each movie kind of has like a different point of view that it's focusing on. So the second movie is
wait, it's the same movie 3 different ways?
Basically, like, it's so strange. The second movie is about a teacher who is teaching a lesson about, like, I think she's talking about, like, MLK. And at one point she talks about, like, how MLK and his, like, his beliefs because he was Christian or whatever. And then
oh no,
a student is so offended by the fact that she brought up Christianity in context with this history class that he texts his parents, and his parents are like, oh, this teacher needs to be fired. And it causes an uproar. And this teacher then has to deal with a lawsuit because now this teacher is being, like, prosecuted, literally in from a legal perspective, is being prosecuted by a bunch of atheist, like, business people who are all like, yes, we're going to destroy this Christian. And then, for whatever reason, they're like, we need to prove in court that God is not dead. And I'm just like, what is this movie? What is this?
These are like the flimsiest arguments to make, not only in life, but especially in court. Just like, all right, I'd like to bring a piece of admissible evidence. It's like, okay, and that is,
oh my god,
God is not dead. It's like, how are you going to prove that? Well, with this right here piece of paper, that's how. Because within Jesus' name, it's just like, what?
Yeah,
no,
it's
please
just
stop.
so strange. And the other 2 movies are also about, like, Christian persecution. Because in every one of these movies, the thing about it is that the creators of these films have this idea that Christians, for just being Christian, are being persecuted. And it's complex. But even with that being said, like, as a movie, these things are wild. Like, who is making these movies? Who is getting the funding to make these movies?
I mean,
like, who
to
is
be fair,
like, what?
Scientologists have a pretty good funding source, so I can only imagine what, like, the Christian funds look like, to be honest. So,
oh my gosh,
they have money. People have money.
They have
especially,
money.
Have you seen like evangelical, like or I should say the televangelists? They have money.
Oh boy,
they have
don't
lots
even
of
get me
money.
started with televangelists.
So
oh boy.
no, I know. So you ask, how do they make these movies? There's people. People will supply the money.
You're right. You're right. So that question is probably super, like, just, oh gosh. And, like, I didn't even get into, like, the other plot points. There's a whole thing about a Muslim woman who is actually a closeted Christian, and when her dad
wait. I just want to imagine it's just like almost like as if like someone's like gay coming out to their parents, just like, Mom, Dad, I didn't want to say this, but I'm Christian. It's like,
oh my god,
you get out of here right now. It's like,
it's so funny because in the case of that particular situation, it's not really like that, but it's still like that. So basically, we learn that this character, she's Muslim, but, like, what she does is whenever she goes to school, she gets dropped off by her father, and then as soon as she gets to school, she rips off her hijab and is like, I'm a Christian. And so later,
I feel like they're trying to, like, trigger every community possible, because I'm sure, like,
my god, they really
the Muslim community was
Ooh,
probably just like up in arms, just like, I can't believe you would do such a thing.
Oh, I didn't even get
like,
to, like, oh boy, because later, we also find out that she's so Christian as to listen to, like, sermons on her iPod. And one time, her brother sees that she's listening to sermons on her iPod. And she's like, don't tell Dad, like, ugh. And so I'm thinking, like, okay, are they doing what I think they're doing right now? Because I don't know about this. And then she at one point is outed by her brother as a Christian. And literally, I'm thinking, okay, so maybe this movie is a little bit more nuanced. Maybe we'll get into like a scene where like maybe it will be like about reaching understanding, about the father trying to come to terms with it, or her trying to do her best with like actually explaining like her feelings about the situation or whatever. No, he busts into her room, beats the shit out of her, and throws her out.
What?
Kicks her out. And then you want to know what makes it even funnier? Is that you think that after something like that, you would be 1, traumatized, 2, super fucking depressed, 3, just would not know what to do. No, this bitch is like, I'm gonna go to a Christian concert because God's not dead.
How old is she?
These are all supposed to be college-age kids. There's also like something about like a Chinese kid, I think, whose dad is like not Christian, but he feels inspired by the main character proving that God is alive to like tell off his dad or something. And then, also I didn't even mention because this is the funniest part. The teacher dies in this movie. He gets hit by a car.
What? I thought you meant the cancer one.
Oh, no. The teacher that's all like, oh, prove that God's alive. We find out that one,
I was right.
One, he was a Christian, but then his wife died or something like that. Or like his son died. And so he was so mad that he hates God. So it's not that he's an atheist, it's that he just hates God and has lost his faith. And then you're thinking, okay, so is this going to be like a redemption arc? What is this going to be? No, this bitch gets hit by a car. And then literally, there are two like priests. I don't want to get into the priest storyline because it honestly does not add anything to the story and it doesn't make any sense. But basically these two priests are there and they're like, oh, his lungs are filling up with blood. Oh, he won't survive. And then the one goes, pray, like repent, like all your sins, blah. And then he dies. And so you're thinking everyone's gonna be really upset because like they literally just witnessed someone fucking die. But no, instead one of the pastors gets up and is like, this is a time to rejoice because he has found God. He just died.
I guess he found him.
What? Huh? Oh my god! And then the movie ends with people being all like, text everyone in your phone book that God's not dead. And then it literally ends with a title card that is telling people to text everyone to tell them that God is not dead.
This movie thought that it was doing something.
Yeah, this movie I found to be quite frustrating. And like I can see
so it made money?
That's kind of strong. I think it did make money. I don't remember how much, but it did make money. The reason why
they made 4, so it's either they made money like enough to make another, or they just kept going under. Like they're just because they're just blowing money.
Well, they're made by and I'm sorry, I don't mean to like talk over. They're made by this company called PureFlix. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Are they like the ones that do like all of them basically?
Yeah, they make all these various types of Christian movies.
Like the boy who like falls out of a tree and like he dies.
I don't know if they did that one, but it's like those. Yeah, all of them are.
But it's like those. It's basically those
the boy
movies.
that fell out of the tree and then it cured his cancer. Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, whatever that is.
But yeah, no, they make all these movies about like faith, but every single one of their movies is about either people losing their faith and getting it back, or people being persecuted for having faith. And it's very strange. But it's weird to me because these movies never try to explain like real life circumstances and try to explain like the nuance of these circumstances. For example, there's another Christian movie I had watched called War Room, where a woman is in like a really, really bad marriage, like really bad. Like her husband is borderline emotionally abusive in this movie. And he's like doing like illegal shit. Like I think he's like stealing pharmaceuticals from his job and selling them on the black market. It's really strange. And she decides to turn to faith to try and figure out an answer. Now, if anyone was in a marriage like hers, I would recommend getting a divorce. At the very least, therapy, and at most, a divorce. But this movie is like, no, you need to fight to save your marriage.
Physically.
And it's like, but this isn't like a marriage that it's not that their marriage is dying. It's that literally your husband is a fuckhead and he is awful. He's a terrible person, period. Like, it has nothing to do with this idea of, like, having to fight for your marriage. But this movie wants to play up this idea that, like, if you pray and if you turn to God, you will always find an answer, and that answer will always be the best in the terms of, like, your faith. It's weird. It's like, because I think that, like, she starts praying in, like, a war room, which I'm not going to try and explain what the fuck a war room is. I really don't understand it. She starts praying, and then literally her husband is, like, cheating on her. That's also another thing. He's cheating on her, too. And then, like, he goes on a date with this woman, and then he gets, like, diarrhea.
What is...
And, like, and it's like, so God is gonna... So when your husband is cheating on you, he's gonna give your spouse diarrhea during... Is that what you're trying to tell me? And that's just gonna solve all my problems? I don't understand.
It will. And the truth will set you free.
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, those two. Oh God, go ahead. Sorry.
I think we've transitioned into just bad movies.
Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry, that was such a long tangent, but we could move on to a new movie. So we'll move on to one of yours. My apologies.
It's okay.
God's Not Dead is so fucking complicated. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna bring it to just general points, just so we're not, so we can start daisy chaining off of just, I guess, other movies. But
yeah,
just I would say it's just a lot of talking about, like, kind of like the horror genre and whatnot. Maybe think about, like, scary movie and whatnot. So, like, the Wayne Bros, but then the Wayne Brothers made me think about, like, other, like, comedic writers and comedians who have their own movies as well. So, like, Adam Sandler movies, Will Ferrell movies, Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn, Ben Stiller, Steve Carell, Jim Carrey. Like, all of these people have such divisive movies. Well, they're not divisive in the sense that, like, it's like hardcore fans versus people who are adamantly against these people, but they are definitely, like, movies that have a split audience, essentially, in terms of how they're valued. But they're just movies that you're not going to the movie theater expecting this phenomenal A-class movie. Like, they're definitely your C's and your D's, like, especially with films such as Master of Disguise, Click. I'm trying to think. I wouldn't say The Mask, even though I really love The Mask.
Actually, legitimately a good movie.
I think so too. So let me say Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
I would say is more so that, like, that movie that there's going to be people who are just like, that's a bad movie. And yeah, just like films like that. Oh, Will Ferrell, Step Brothers. I feel like there's going to be just a bunch you can list off. Talladega Nights.
Yeah. Just, like, most of those, like, really, really broad comedies that, like, I kind of call it, like, wavelength movies, where it's like you kind of have to be on their level. Like, you kind of have to, like, be like in that zone for it to really like click. Because if you're expecting one thing or another and it doesn't hit those things, you're gonna hate them so much.
Yeah, like Dumb and Dumber.
Yep.
Or what's the I know you don't like Adam Sandler, but what's the twins movie where it's like he's a twin sister? Jack and Jill. Oh God, that movie.
Fun fact, Razzies, because I love talking about the Razzies, even though I kind of low-key hate them. Will Ferrell won every single award for Jack and Jill, like every one.
Do you say Will Ferrell?
Sorry, not Will Ferrell. I apologize. Adam Sandler.
Wow.
Adam Sandler won every single award. He won, like, worst picture, worst actor, worst actress, worst on-screen couple.
Did anyone need to go to the awards that year?
Well, people generally speaking don't really go to the Razzies unless it's like an actor basically just like making fun of themselves. Like, I think the only ones I can think of are like Sandra Bullock and Halle Berry did it. But like they're a joke. They're not really treated like a legitimate awards body, but it's really funny sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that, like, I definitely do agree with that for sure, because there's another movie I can think of where it's not made by any of those people that you mentioned. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever heard of Freddy Got Fingered?
What?
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, yeah, that title is fucking wild.
Is it along the lines of, like, Clerks?
No, not at all. It's more.
Clerks is also a good bad movie.
Well, I think Clerks is considered a good movie. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I have not seen Clerks, and if I have seen it, it's been a long fucking time. So like, I don't remember anything from Clerks.
Is it considered okay? Like,
well, because you're talking about like the black and white
it's
one.
definitely out there. What?
You're talking
black
about
and white?
Oh wait, is that not Clerks?
Was it black and white? I don't know if the first one was, but Clerks 2 was definitely in color.
The first one is in black and white. It was the first movie made by what's his name? Oh shit, I'm forgetting his name.
Yes,
he plays the
comic book.
Yeah. Oh shit, I'm forgetting his name, but
Silent Bob.
Yeah. The first Clerks was in black and white because that was his first film. It was like a very independent film, but it was a major success. But yeah, I hadn't seen it, and like if I have seen it, literally it was probably when I was like a child, and I don't remember anything from it. But
wait, he made that before he made oh my god, I just watched it. It was another like another Christmas movie. It was like with Matt Damon. And,
Dogma was like well after.
Really?
Yeah, okay. Dogma was like
Dogma's also I wouldn't say it's a good bad movie, but it's definitely out there.
I've seen bits and pieces of Dogma. To be honest, his entire filmography is like very like.
I highly recommend. You know what? We should watch Dogma one night.
I saw the ending where like I don't know. There's like a god or something like just like doing something or like a demon. I don't know.
We'll watch it. It's hilarious.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
I think our two friends that I'll mention afterwards will thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, no, I'll definitely sit through that. But like a lot of his Kevin Smith, that's his name. A lot of his movies are like kind of like a blurry spot for me. But yeah, no, it's Freddy Got Fingered. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. It's more like I think the comedy would be more along the lines of like a Waterboy or like it's more Adam Sandler.
Okay,
I think
it's
made by I'm forgetting his name, but it's made by the guy who dated Drew Barrymore around the same time, or was married to Drew Barrymore. He's not really around now, but his type of comedy was really like wacky and like he was always playing someone who was like borderline like very very stupid. I don't know how to describe it. No, I'm forgetting his name entirely, so that's my bad. But essentially, the movie doesn't have a plot. It's just a series of events that happen. The best I can put it is that it's about a guy who's trying to impress his father, but his father fucking hates him. But the whole movie is just like a series of weird events. Like the one scene that's like the most iconic from it is that there's a scene where the dad, who I may be wrong, is played by Rip Torn, who's the guy who like ran Men in Black, or ran like Rip Torn plays the dad, and he walks into the room, and Freddy, our lead, is playing the piano, but his fingers are tied to a bunch of sausages that are all hanging down in the room. And he just starts singing a song where literally the lyrics are just Daddy wants some sausage or something like that. And he's just hitting the piano and singing that over and over again. But this movie gets like really, really weird where like there's a whole sequence where he starts like helping an elephant give birth or something. Like he starts like basically molesting an animal in this movie. I think the movie ends with a wedding. I don't know. This movie was fucking weird. But it's considered to be, some people consider it to be like a masterpiece in bad, and I'm just like I don't understand what this movie's supposed to be. But it's like that kind of, it's the same type of comedy that like Adam Sandler does. It's just more exaggerated. It's really over the top.
Oh boy.
It's really bad. I'll show you that at some point. It's really bad.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh god. And then, but like I think the thing about it though is that like, and I was mentioning this to you before we started, is that when it comes to like those comedians, those comedic actors, Adam Sandler's the only one that I've never really liked. I like Will Ferrell. I like Ben Stiller. I like Owen Wilson. I like all of them. But like Adam Sandler, his comedy has just never been for me. Almost all of his movies, like there are some movies that don't star him that he made that like I thought were okay. Like Paul Blart Mall Cop, I think is okay. I don't think it's a bad movie. And like some of his earlier work is fine. Like I did
Grown Ups.
I think I liked the first Grown Ups when I was younger. Maybe
I didn't see the second one either.
I didn't see the second one. But like a lot of his movies that like he starred in, like for example, like That's My Boy. That movie.
Oh yeah, with Andy Samberg.
Yeah, that movie. Oh god, I really hated that movie. Like a lot of his movies, I just end up watching them and I hate them.
I kind of I liked it.
Really?
Like,
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated it. And like even like what's it called? He made a movie. This didn't star him, but he made a movie called Bucky Larson Born to Be a Star.
I feel like I've heard it. I've just never seen it.
The movie is about a guy who finds out his parents were porn stars, so he decides he wants to become a porn star. And the running gag is that his dick is super small, but like that's it.
That's it. Oh, that's
the running
substance.
gag. But like I don't want to get like super graphic, but how do I say this? I don't want to get super graphic, but like he's really, his money shots are very, very impressive to all the porn producers. So he becomes like a superstar. When I tell you that I struggled so hard to sit through that movie, I struggled. And I'm not the type of person who like watches a movie and then turns it off because I don't like the movie. I usually try to sit through movies the entire way through. But that movie, oh my god, I was so close on multiple occasions. And I have not seen it since it was like on TV back in like 2011. I watched it, have not seen it since then, have no intention of seeing it again. That movie, I absolutely fucking hate it with a burning passion.
You're like, I'll sit through Justice League uncut 4 hours straight through.
I watched that twice. Yes, I did watch the 4-hour cut twice.
But I will not watch this movie that's probably an hour and a half long ever again.
Oh my god, I absolutely not. But yeah, like, but I do love like Talladega Nights. I love what is it called? Blades of Glory. Love that movie.
Oh yeah, Blades of. Have you seen? What about Benchwarmers? What do you think about Benchwarmers?
It was okay. I didn't really like it that much as a kid. I
watched it a lot as a kid.
Really?
Yeah, one I didn't see until recently, as in like 2020, was Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, okay. So I watched that one as a kid also. I don't think I understood what was going on in that movie at all. Because as a kid, I kind of hated it, but everyone was like always like, "Oh my god, Napoleon Dynamite is so funny." So I was always like, "Yeah."
No, but I'm in the same position as you. I, as a grown adult, watched it, and I still was like, "It was okay."
Well, I think there are
there's funny moments.
Yeah,
I don't. It's not the. Maybe I had to go back to 2004 or 5 whenever it came out.
2004,
to really,
yeah. Yeah, the movie was like a phenomenon. Like everyone fucking loved it, and I remember watching it on multiple occasions. I was just like, I mean, it like I don't know,
it's okay.
But everyone was always like, "Oh my god, Pedro for president," and I'm just like, I don't get it. But watching it now, there are definitely parts where I died laughing. I'm trying to remember what, but I don't know. It was like 2 or 3 years ago I watched it.
It's mainly the uncle and his cousin that like made the movie for me, because like his cousin like meeting his like the girlfriend online, because you're just like, oh, she's not real. And then you meet, and like his whole personality changes because he's like imbuing basically black culture.
Yeah, exactly.
And like he's trying to be like all gangster and whatnot, and then like the uncle is just really overly
constantly
creepy,
throwing the football or whatever. Yeah. I remember I died of laughter. There's like an end credit scene where like Napoleon, I think is his name actually Napoleon? I'm struggling.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure his name is Napoleon.
He's on a horse, and like he's like riding a horse with like his shirt open, and I don't know why, but it was really funny. It's like this weird fantasy sequence that was really funny. I died of laughter. But yeah, I mean, like it's like a weird indie that people loved, and I thought it was okay at the time. I still think it's okay now, but it's not really one that I've ever loved personally. Although one movie that we did watch, and this is kind of segueing into a different form of comedy, one movie that we do love, that we rewatched not too long ago, like a few years ago, and when I say I audibly cringed so hard, oh my god! So we rewatched Scooby-Doo, the 2002 movie Scooby-Doo. Yes.
I was waiting. It was giving me that look, just like
we rewatched it with a group of friends in college. Oh my god, this movie! So I hadn't seen it in a while since like we like that was the first time I watched it in a long period of time.
Same.
And
I didn't realize how much I loved this movie.
Oh my god! See, there are jokes in the movie that I had remembered, but I didn't remember them being as cringy as they were until we rewatched the movie.
100%, 100%.
I think the part so if you don't know the premise of Scooby-Doo, which if you don't, and you're like our age, you didn't have a childhood. Sorry. This movie is basically about like, and the plot of the movie, not the plot of Scooby-Doo as a whole. The plot of this movie is that it's the Mystery Inc. team, after solving a big crime, split up. And then they meet back up after they all get invited to this island that is more or less haunted by like these weird demon creature things. And they have to like solve the mystery. And as the movie goes along, like the mystery is more real as opposed to their typical mysteries, which are all like fake. Where like, oh, it's just a person in a mask. This time it's more like, oh, we're actually fighting like monsters.
Yeah.
And the movie is very interesting. So I guess the good things about the movie is that Matthew Lillard deserved an Oscar nomination for this goddamn movie. He is so fucking good as Shaggy.
Which is why he continued to play Shaggy and
Exactly.
voice Shaggy in every animated feature, I believe, since. Or I think he might have even done it beforehand. I don't remember. But he's been Shaggy for such a long time.
And, like, his performance as Shaggy is just so fucking good. And, like, the people that won the movie for me in terms of performance are him and Linda Cardellini as Velma. The two of them are fantastic. Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr., they can't act, but it's fine. Hot take, they can't act, but it's okay.
Hot take,
it's
you
fine.
didn't hear that. If you're listening to this, you didn't hear that.
They have a presence, but they can't act. And like, I could be wrong, but I haven't seen anything that they're good in, so whatever. But Linda Cardellini and Matthew Lillard are like god tier in this movie, performance wise. Now, the movie, fun fact, was written by, or at least was co-written by James Gunn. This first one, and the second one.
Fully written by James Gunn.
Oh, did he fully write it? I thought he was just co-written.
I'm pretty sure
okay.
because like that script was heavily modified because of the things he put into it.
That's true. Yeah, because the movie was originally supposed to be like an adult movie. Like it wasn't meant to be a kids movie, and then it was modified to become a kids movie.
Yeah, I think it was even like it was R. Like it was supposed to be R.
Yeah. And then
it got down to PG-13, and then they heavily cut it and modified all the scenes to the point where it's just like, all right, where's PG?
So the movie eventually basically, like, I can imagine that the movie would have been more like Suicide Squad, the new one, where, like, it's a lot of, like, that type of humor, which is what James Gunn is known for. Or maybe if we're going back to, like, 2004, or 2000, oh, wait, this movie came out in 2002. If we're going back to, like, his earlier work, I guess 2007, he comes out with Slither, which I don't know if you were there to watch that.
No, I didn't watch Slither.
Okay, watch that as a group. It's like an alien invasion movie, but the ultimate premise is about a guy who loves his wife. It's weird, but
it's all about family.
The comedy would have been something along those lines, and with Scooby-Doo, you can definitely see the remnants of like the adult humor in this movie, because there are lines of dialogue in this movie where I was like, "What the actual fuck is this?" Where
do you mean like? Keeping it real?
Oh
like
my god!
Okay,
that was the part where I cringed. There's a scene where
and Freddy's just like, "What's up, dog?" And
dog. Oh my god! I lost my mind. But I think the keeping it real part was where I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. But I think the number one line of dialogue that comes to mind is like, why is this in this movie? Is when well, it's two things. The first thing is when they switch bodies. So part of the supernatural element of this movie is that apparently the souls of people can be sucked out and then be replaced by these demon creature things. And their souls get sucked out, but they end up switching bodies. So like Velma ends up in the body of
Freddy.
Freddy ends up in the body of Velma, or no, Velma ends up taken over by like a creature. And then Freddy ends up in Daphne's body, right?
Yeah.
And then
because he's like, hey, I can look at myself
naked. That's the line. Where they all switch bodies, and then he has the audacity to say some bullshit like that. And then earlier on the movie, when they first start investigating, there's another line of dialogue that had me losing my fucking mind again. Where he says to Velma, so they're talking about something, and he says to Velma, girls like you turn me on too. And then Velma rolls her eyes and walks away, and he's like, what'd I say?
What?
Like, what? And once again, I was like, what? In this movie? And then, like, of course, there's the iconic farting scene where it's like a 2-minute scene of Matthew Lillard and Scooby-Doo farting for no goddamn reason. And then you have, oh god, Scrappy Doo turns out to be the fucking villain of this movie.
Oh yeah.
In a mech, not a mech suit, in a robotic suit.
Yeah, and then he turns into a giant monster version of Scrappy Doo because
Exactly.
he's trying to absorb he's like absorbing all the souls, and like he put into a prism that was in his chest, blah blah blah. But also another fun one was Shaggy's love interest name was Mary Jane.
Isla Fisher. Isla Fisher's character, yes.
Yes,
I can't.
Mary Jane, and he's like, wow, that's like my favorite thing.
Oh, the Scooby
her favorite name.
Oh, Jesus Christ! And then the Scooby Snacks thing, where they're both on the plane, and she's like, "Oh my god, I love Scooby Snacks." And they're like, "Oh my god, soulmates!" And then Scooby Doo is well, no, they play up this whole idea of Scooby Doo being jealous, but in actuality, Isla Fisher is taken over by a demon creature.
Oh yeah.
Oh, also Daphne can fight now because we want to get rid of that whole idea of like her being the damsel in distress. So now she kicks this wrestler's ass in this movie.
No, canonically she's been like a martial artist.
Well,
like, even in the cartoons.
Well, I would say that doesn't really become a thing until later on because with the history of Scooby-Doo, I think that like with the early Scooby-Doo stuff,
like
she very much is
like the 60s.
Yes,
like
but then in the 90s is when we get like the more modern iteration of Daphne.
like
is my point.
Yeah, like not Monster Island, Zombie Island.
Zombie Island, which that those 4 animated films god tier. But yeah,
Cyber
Chase. What is it? Cyber Chase, Witch's Ghost, Zombie Island.
And is it the Alien one?
Oh, Alien Invasion. Yeah. Those are like those 4 are god tier. Alien Invasion is my least favorite, but like they're all great.
Yeah.
But either way, it's just really funny to me because the movie is. I just was not expecting to cringe so hard in one movie, but I did, and it's wild.
But it was a beautiful ride.
It was super fun.
Which means we also have to watch the second one sometime.
Oh God, I don't think I'm ready. Although I have seen scenes of the second one like now out of context, and like I remember it very clearly as a kid because I watched that movie on like repeat. But like, oh my God,
me too.
Jesus, the red Velma in the red thing, the red cat suit,
and the squeaking, and then Seth Green's character just like they're like,
and I'm just like, what is this movie for children? What is going on? And then like.
There was an awakening happening. That's what it was happening.
Oh my God. But I did love that one as a kid because like that one was like more like, oh, like there are these giant monsters like running around like flying everywhere.
Yeah, because again, they were just like, the monsters are real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that movie was something else. And then, so I guess the next movie I kind of want to talk about is another kids movie. And we talked about it a little bit beforehand that you did not watch this movie, but this is another one we watched as like a group with some of our other friends. Food Fight. Have you heard of it?
I mean, besides what you've been saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so Food Fight. And if you want to, I would highly recommend looking at the poster. Food Fight. Okay, so imagine Sausage Party, but it's for children, and it's super poorly animated. Oh God. So the movie is basically about. I'll just read the synopsis because I don't know where to start with this. Dex Dog Detective, voiced by Charlie Sheen.
Ew.
Daredevil Dan, voiced by Wayne Brady. And Sunshine Goodness, voiced by Hilary Duff. And the other longtime residents of a supermarket city band together to prevent Lady X, voiced by Eva Longoria, the evil icon of Brand X, from taking over their world. In this movie, we are watching as they quit it, icons of various brands fight to save their world in a fucking supermarket. And by icons, I mean like Mr. Clean and the fish from Star Kiss canned fish shit. And like,
who signed off on this?
I don't fucking know. It's so
who wanted this movie?
Bad.
Why? How did they get so many people?
This movie was in production, like I want to say, like mid 2000s, if not early 2000s, and the movie took forever to come out. The animation is so bad. The comedy is so bad. It's hilariously bad. It's insane.
It was scheduled for Christmas 2003.
It's so bad. It's so
9 years of production.
It's so bad, but it's so funny. And the fact that it managed to see the light of day makes it even that much more funny. So
you're telling me there's 9 year... Were these these lines, were they recorded like 9 years prior?
I'm
and
assuming
they were animating so.
I'm assuming so. I can't think of a single reason why they would have this type of cast for such a bad movie. I have no idea.
Can you imagine like Charlie Sheen and like Hilary Duff and Wayne Brady being like, I forgot I made that movie.
Honestly,
what?
if they said that, I would not blame them. Honestly, Charlie Sheen was probably on all the crack when he did that movie.
I mean, to say yes to this movie, I would assume so. I'm looking at the picture right now, and I'm just like, who in their right mind would sign?
It's
like
so
this
bad.
movie looks like even for 2003 standards, this is awful. Like who?
Oh god, it's so bad.
And how do they spend $65 million on it? Is it on branding alone?
This is a great
what?
question because this movie is really fucking bad. It's so funny though.
It only made $70,000 in the box office.
Wait, it came out in theaters? They did not put this shit in theaters. Oh my god!
It only made $70,000. If it makes you feel any better.
Okay, this movie is so funny. So like the whole premise of like them trying to save their world, for one, is really stupid. But two, they are constantly making jokes about.
And they only made 0.1%.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Back.
Oh Jesus Christ!
0.1%.
Oh no. Okay. This movie. So basically what makes it funny is that the comedy in this movie is very much like Scooby-Doo, where it's like more adult, but the jokes are so overtly sexual, it's actually quite insane. We're like there's like constant jokes of like oh, I'd want to butter that muffin. And you're just like, huh? And then, like, on top of that, the icons are all, like, different types of characters or whatever. Like, Dex Dog Detective, if you couldn't tell, is a fucking dog. Also, I think the funniest part, the one that had me crack up so hard, is out of context. You can probably look this up online. The movie opens with Dex solving, like, a crime involving, like, stolen kittens or something. But they don't look like kittens. They look like fucking walruses. It's so strange. And then, like, so there's a rat thing. Oh no, it's a cat. The thing is supposed to be a cat, but it looks like a giant fucking rat. It's so funny. Where Dex is like, the game's over, fat cat. It's all over. Put the things down. Ugh. And literally this cat thing just goes. It just goes. I'm gonna kill you. And I don't know why, but when that happened in the movie, I lost my mind. I thought it was so funny. But
that is not a cat. That is not a cat.
You're looking at pictures of it?
Literally, it says he is an obese cat criminal. He's literally... Oh, I read this wrong. Wait, I'll have you know.
What?
It said he was voiced by Harvey Fierstein. I read that as Harvey Weinstein.
No, we're not. No, he's gone.
I was like, oh,
done.
No.
We're done. They're done. No.
No. It's Harvey Fierstein.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, no, it's just so funny to me because this movie, all the comedy doesn't make any sense. The characters don't make any sense. Nothing about this movie makes sense. And it's really wild to me that it was made. So that's why I had to bring up Food Fight. Was there another one that came to mind for you?
I'll say probably just to wrap this episode up. We'll end off with one we both have seen.
Okay.
You know it. You love it. We've seen it multiple times.
Yes, we have.
Your one and only Showgirls.
Oh, Showgirls. Okay.
Where this movie is batshit insane.
It is.
In terms of what it is. Literally, it's about a girl who just wants to dance. And what does she do to get into an industry about just dancing? She becomes a stripper. And how did she get here in Las Vegas stripping, you ask? Well, obviously she was with a boyfriend at the time, breaks up with him, runs across the street in frustration, and ends up meeting some nice lady. No? Am I missing things up?
No, yeah, so technically that's not entirely it. But honestly, if that was I don't blame you because this movie doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
So we're introduced to this character named Nomi, and Nomi.
Oh, yeah, that's her name too.
Yeah, Nomi Malone. We love that, and her character is awful. She is a terrible person through and through, from beginning to end. She's not charismatic. She's not likable. She's literally terrible. She's awful, and we open up the movie with her hitchhiking. She gets in the car of this guy, and then he, like, asks her a question or something, and her first thing is to whip out a knife on him.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So there's like a series of events. She only has like a suitcase, whatever. She ends up in Vegas. She gambles, wins a bunch of money. Then some guy comes up to her and starts going like, "Oh, do you want to? Oh, you like money? You want to make some more? I've got an opportunity for you." And she's like walking away, and then he literally just screams at her like, "One of these days you're gonna have to sell it." We're 5 minutes into this 2.5 hour movie. This movie's 2.5 hours, by the way.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's really bad. And like, so,
but it's so enjoyable to watch.
It's so funny because the basic premise is like, yeah, she ends up in Las Vegas. She ends up wanting to be a part of this Las Vegas show called Stardust, or right? Like, yeah, at the Stardust, there's like some sort of show called Goddess. That's what it's called. So she wants to be part of a show called Goddess, which is a topless show. This movie's NC-17, by the way. It's a topless show where it's just like a bunch of dancing and theatrics that don't make any sense. Like 1 minute they're all like literal like gods dressed in like silver and gold and like doing a bunch of dances. The next minute they're in like a motorbike BDSM show. It's really strange. They never explain it. And the movie is just full of her getting into like weird wacky antics for 2.5 hours. And then all of a sudden there's rape and then the movie ends.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So trigger warning about that if you decide to watch this movie. But like,
it's a lot though, because she's just all over the place. She's never likable at any point. I don't think you can sympathize with the actions that she does. The people around her are equally as awful, which is just like, why is there so many bad people in Vegas? The one person who is nice to her is the one that gets raped, which is like, why?
Yeah,
movie?
Exactly. It's like so strange.
Why?
It's really fucked up. It's so fucked up. Also, like lines of dialogue in this movie that have me cackling. Like the what is it? There's like lines of dialogue like everybody got AIDS and shit. There's a line of dialogue. I don't want to get into the context, but literally someone goes, "I got towels and I died."
Wait, isn't what's her friend's name again?
I'm sorry, Molly.
What's her friend's name? Molly. Okay, isn't like the first like few minutes of them together, like Molly's just like, so yeah, like where are you from?
Oh yeah,
and she's like, places.
she's eating like fries. She's like ketchuping the fuck out of these fries, and she's eating the fries, and she's like snatching them and like putting them in her mouth and just like yanking them off or whatever. And then like she has like a giant soda, and I think they're supposed to like share all these fries or whatever, but literally like
she ate them all.
Yeah, Molly's just asking her questions, and then out of nowhere she just like picks up the fries, slams it down on the table, snatches the drink and goes different places. There's like stuff like that. There's a whole thing where like this whole movie portrays all the women in this movie are portrayed as being sex workers on some level. And it makes it even funnier because none of these women get along in any way. And every time there's like two women on screen who are interacting with one another, they either hate each other and are calling each other like derogatory names, or they're like basically on the verge of like making out. It's really strange. And like, I think the part that throws me is like there's a scene where Crystal, who you could argue is like kind of like the antagonist of the movie, Crystal and Nomi are out at dinner, and then all of a sudden they start like talking to each other about their previous experiences, and all of a sudden Crystal just goes, "Ha, doggy chow. I used to love doggy chow," and Nomi's like, "Oh my god, I used to love doggy chow too," and you're just like, "What?" Oh, also she calls Versace Versace. That happens multiple times in this movie.
No, I forgot about that. See, the scenes that stand out to me just because of how this is, I can only describe it because you have to watch it if you ever want to see this. Mm-hmm. Literally, Crystal is her name, right?
Yeah, Crystal Connors is her name.
Okay, well, it's her boyfriend, right?
Yes,
or something like that.
They don't tell you. They are definitely fucking. That is definitely happening.
They're linked in some intimate way. But like Crystal goes to visit like Nomi at the strip club or whatever. Or maybe I'm misremembering.
No, you're right.
Like,
you're right. Yeah.
Okay, and so like her boyfriend / partner, whoever he is there too, and she basically like goes like, yeah, you can give him a lap dance, and then she basically Nomi gets on top of the boy, the man, whatever, and does the most aggressive like lap dance I've ever seen. Like, it's not just gyrating, and she's looking at Crystal the whole time as she's doing it, and it's like just super, just like staring down, eyes in the face, eyes are locked together.
So awkward.
And then like almost like a not even a jack. I don't know how to describe this. Like a fidget spinner jackhammer motion. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a lot of spinning. It's a lot of up and down. It's a lot of, but none of it looks right. Like, whoever like the choreographer was for this scene, I don't know what they were on. But eventually, he finishes, which is the worst part. Somehow.
Yeah, the whole scene is just, oh my god, it's so bad.
And then but then they do it again. But this time, like,
in the pool.
but in the pool. But like actual intercourse this time. And it's just like, I didn't like it the first time, and you're doing it again. It's just as aggressive.
Because this movie thinks that what it's doing is like super sexy and super erotic. It's not. It's some of the grossest shit I think I've ever seen on screen. And it's wild because that motion you're talking about, like, the first time I watched this with a group of friends, we literally described it as her having like an exorcism. It's so weird because she's just like going up and down, like flying all over the place. She's flailing her body all over the place. She's like all she's
like a fish out of water.
And then like there's also like her dancing. So the major plot point is that everyone's always talking about how great of a dancer she is. She cannot dance, and it's so bad. She can't dance, and it's frustrating because literally there's a scene where a character goes up to her and literally tells her straight out that she can't dance, and she's like doing this thing where she's like moving her head around, and like I don't even know what she's doing. She like starts like flailing her head all over the place, and then just goes, "Well, what am I doing?"
And you're like, that's definitely not dancing still. Like, whatever you thought, like, you doing it more vigorously does not make it any better.
And then, like, they start dancing together, and then, like, I don't remember what he did. He did something or said something to her, and then she, like, knees him in the crotch, and then he falls into a group of guys, and the guys start, like, fighting, and then they kick her out, and then she goes to jail.
And then later on, they meet up again. And he's like, "Well, I can still give you dance lessons if you want."
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden, he's like, "You're one of the best dancers I've ever seen." And I was like, well, "Bitch, where? Where? Like what?" And this character that we're talking about is super funny because he's kind of like a love interest in this movie, but his character doesn't make any sense because literally we find out at one point that he's sleeping with another woman that was working at like the strip club or whatever that Nomi's from, and he gets her pregnant. But it's funny because the way that information is revealed to us is they're doing the girlfriend that's like pregnant and him are doing like some sort of dance performance on stage. They get booed off stage. They leave the stage. The girl's name is Penny, by the way, which they made a sequel of this movie starring her. I'm not about to get into that. I never watched it. I never will.
Me neither.
They get off of the stage. He is telling Nomi about this. About like, or rather just talking to Nomi or whatever. The girl comes down and is like, is saying something. I don't remember what he says, but he turns to her and just goes, "Yeah, give me a beer, bitch." She dances like a fucking truck.
Oh,
and then
no.
she leaves, and then 2 seconds later he goes, "Yeah, she's pregnant with my baby."
No.
And oh god, this movie, I can't handle it. So yeah. Showgirls is probably my favorite good bad movie. It's the movie I always return to whenever we're like, oh, we need to watch a bad movie. I'm always like, Showgirls?
And I'll always say yes.
Oh god, it's super long. The pacing is awful. Also, one other line that I want to highlight. This is the last thing. 4 more classes, they're gonna give me that degree. Oh boy. Oh yeah. So Showgirls, 10 out of 10. Really a half a star out of 10. Not even a star out of 10, but 10 out of 10.
You'll have fun with the movie, but it's still bad.
Yep. True. Oh my god. All right. Well, with that being said, thanks you guys for listening.
Indeed. If you want to find us more on anything else or listen to other podcasts that we've recorded, please check out our Linktree, which has all of our social medias included, which be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the places where you can find us. And if you want to leave a comment, we'll have a little poll in our Spotify and some other places too in terms of where you can input your favorite good-ist bad movie. Let us know. Maybe we'll check it out and review it some other time. But I'll definitely wrap it up for this episode. And with that, I'm Brandon.
I'm Daryl.
We will see you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.